Welcome, college basketball fans, to the Full Court Press Podcast with LT and Sammy D. This is the podcast that brings you legendary stories from college basketball's golden era and dives in deep with a current analysis of today's game. Get ready for the most energetic and entertaining college basketball podcast around. Let's get it.
Hello and welcome to another Full Court Press, a college basketball coaches show powered by the Full Court Network. Luke Taylor here, alone again. Sam was just not up for this one because all I want to talk about this coaches is about X-Ray Hip. Greatest name in college basketball still today, X-Ray Hip. When you marry a medical family, that's all you want to talk about. But don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, like us, follow us on our social media handles, and check out our Substack page. We're going to have a lot of good stuff coming up, and we'll be at the Final Four. So this guy, I actually knew about this guy. He was a ball player back in the day, and I will say one of his teammates was one of my favorite players in college, Joe Smith. And when you follow Joe Smith, you hear about this guy, Duane Simpkins. So we got Duane Simpkins, head coach of American University. Welcome to the Full Court Press, Coach.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Great to be on.
Yeah. You never thought anybody would talk in an interview right off the bat about X-Ray Hip, huh?
People who know basketball, I wouldn't be surprised if it did come up. But yeah, Joe, it's funny. Joe just texted me last night, as a matter of fact. So, hell of a team right there. Had some really, really good players around me. Made me look good.
Yeah, well, I think you were in, and I mean, it's interesting because we actually have some parallels we'll talk about later with your high school coach and my high school coach. Great season. You've been there for 2 years, and it's kind of funny, some parallels to your former head college coach, Coach Williams. His first job was American University too.
It was. He was an assistant coach, I believe, at Lafayette with Dr. Tom Davis back in the day, and was fortunate enough to get the American job, had some success, and then went on to Boston College, Ohio State, and then ended up making his way back to his alma mater, University of Maryland.
Yeah. How critical was he in maybe kind of talking about American? I know it's been decades ago, but how critical was he in the process?
He played a part. I think there were a number of people, man, that that I had already had in my life or had some kind of connection to. And at that point in time, it's almost like recruiting, man. You start to try to connect the dots, and you try to communicate with this person, and try to position yourself as best possible. But, I was really fortunate, obviously, Gary having the success that he had there, and then being a Hall of Fame coach later on. And, and I think I did a pretty good job in the interview process. And, they weren't going to hand me the job for sure because, there before, what have you. I mean, I was up against some very good competition that, other guys that were being considered for the job, and that are really, really good coaches as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What's interesting about kind of your past and your playing days, I mean, McDonald's All-American under Morgan Wooten at DeMatha, and DeMatha for years and still is, but for years, I mean, was just a powerhouse. I mean, everybody knew DeMatha. I mean, the long list of NBA players, NBA draft picks, college players. But your recruiting class was kind of the beginning of Maryland basketball. When you really look at those kind of, and I'm not knocking, Len Elmore and, Len Bias and those guys, but if you really look at kind of the parallels of what happened of, then the Steve Francis's came in and the, just the different Prophet and Booth and just all these guys, kind of what was like that your freshman year?
Freshman year was rough, man. We had 5 guys that came in my recruiting class. It was myself, Johnny Rhodes, X-Ray Hip, Mario Lucas from Tennessee, and there was a little known big man named Nemanja Petrovic. Nemanja was he was slated to be the starting center the following year. But my freshman year, man, I mean, we got our heads handed to us every single night. I think we're picked last. We might have won. We won enough games to finish next to last, I think. 25, 30-point losses. We were the first class that Gary was allowed to have that could participate in the NCAA tournament, to have a full allotment of scholarships, to play on live TV because the 2 or 3 years prior, we were on NCAA sanctions. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was, Gary he said it a number of times. This was going to be kind of like the recruiting class to kind of lay the foundation for things to come. And, we were very fortunate the very following year to get Joe Smith and Keith Booth. Keith, I played AAU basketball with. And, when I committed to University of Maryland, I'm always kind of like an underdog type guy. And that's one of the things that stood out to me about Gary. I knew he had a chip on his shoulder. I visited Duke. I visited Wake Forest at the time, Providence, where Rick Barnes is there. Leonard Hamilton was in Miami. I visited there. But I'm a home guy, and I wanted to do something special. I wanted to kind of roll the dice, because I could have gone to a number of places that were already established. And, I didn't know this guy named Joe Smith was going to be as good as he was the following year. But it's great, man. It's really helped instill in me some of the things that I still hold true to this day as a coach in terms of developing and building a program. My freshman year, man, you could walk off the street and come into Cole Fieldhouse and get a ticket, to any game. And you fast forward a year later, we knock off Maryland to start the season. Maryland's a top 10, top 15 team in the country. And we win some more games, and we're going into NCAA, ACC play, and we're like 2-0, 3-0. And I remember distinctly, we lose to Georgia Tech on the road. We got North Carolina, who's the number 1 team in the country, that Monday, Tuesday night. And as we pull up from the Georgia Tech game to unload our bus, I mean, there are tents outside. And to see that transformation within 1 year, it really lets me know that, if you build it, they'll come, but you got to develop a strong foundation. You got to work hard. You got to get fortunate, and you got to win some basketball games, and people will hop on board.
Yeah. So it kind of parallels kind of like American first year, 16-16. Then the second year you take the jump per se. What did you do differently last off season compared to the first off season you had? I mean, obviously there's a little bit different parallels and stuff like that, but I guess what did you learn and take and kind of expand on after that first off season into last summer?
Yeah, man. I mean, you're a dad, man, and I'm a dad as well. And people can tell you everything. You can read all the manuals and the baby books and everything, but until you go through it, you don't know what you don't know. And there were a number of things that, in retrospect, last year this time, I took a few weeks, man, to just really start writing some notes down and evaluating first myself. There were a number of things that I think I could have done better. Everything from, the organization of the structure of our practices. I think looking back on it, we went too long. We wore guys down. We had already had injuries. So being smarter with the construction of practice, the attack of, our defense. Our defense was really, really bad my freshman year. Offense was good. We could score. And looking back, I was like, that's where I was putting a lot of my emphasis. And I was just hoping that we could stop people enough to outscore them. And so I sat down with my defensive coordinator, Jackie Manuel, who went to North Carolina, won a national championship, and he was a hell of a defensive player.
Time out. Why would you bring a rival into the equation? That's like sleeping with the enemy.
It could have been worse. He wasn't from Duke. If it was from Duke, that might have dropped lines right there.
Why does everybody hate Duke?
I know, man. It's the craziest thing. But Jackie was a hell of a defensive player. And we sat down, man, and we evaluated our league, and we like, hey, what makes sense for us? And the year before, the first year, we were like a pack line defense, very passive. We didn't pressure the basketball, and we did a complete 180. We pressured everything. We got in the passing lanes, which is what I'm more used to anyway. And we were a much better defensive team. And and then just meeting with people in our entire program that was connected to us, our strength and conditioning coach, our sports information people, our academic folks. We all sat down and I said, hey, I'm taking accountability myself. And I laid out the things that I could have done better. And then I just started attacking all the things that I wanted to see different within our program. I wanted to have more of a social media presence. I wanted our guys to be stronger and bigger. And then identify what it takes and just develop a game plan for that. So I think those things laid the foundation. And then obviously we had some really good guys who were high character guys, and they were all juniors about to be seniors or seniors about to become super seniors, I would call them. And that experience helps too. And they had an idea of how I wanted to coach and how I wanted to play. I could coach them even harder this past year. And we got fortunate. We stayed healthy for the most part. My first year, we had a ton of injuries. I mean, we were limping down the stretch. We were playing 3 walk-ons down the stretch. And even with that, we finished in second place. So I felt like if we could stay healthy and I could be better as a coach and our program could take the next step, that we would have a legitimate shot of doing what we did last year.
Yeah. How different is it coaching, let's say, in the Patriot League than, say, I know you're at the A10. I know you're at the at UNC Greensboro. What are kind of the differences? Because you don't really deal with NIL as much, the transfer portal as much. Kind of why is, I guess, the Patriot League so unique?
I think you may want to reserve that, because I think on this year's first, second, and third team, outside of we had kids who graduated, obviously, who moved on, but we've got one person who's still left on the first, second, and third team. We're starting to get hit with it now. The better players at all levels are being picked off. I really think that, for us, and I think that there's some other schools within our conference that could say the same thing. Our degree really matters. And our student athletes and their families, they recognize that they're not going to be playing in the NBA. We're going to have some that are going to go overseas and play professionally, but there is more of a conscious reality check that, this game of basketball is going to stop sooner than later. And I think a number of them want to prepare themselves for life beyond basketball, and they stay in one spot. They stay in the Patriot League. I can only speak for American. We had one transfer last year. We were able to retain all of our guys. So far, knock on wood, into the transfer portals, all the guys that are able to come back next year are coming back as well. So just developing a culture, man. And then, we have a number of really, really good people here at American. Our administrators are great. We have great faculty members. Our Kogat School of Business, headed by David Dean Marchek, is one of the best in the country, and the majority of our kids are business majors, and he's able to connect these guys with internships and everything. So all those things really matter, man. I think a culmination of those things helps us so that we have a foundation to be able to retain some of the players that are in our program.
I have a great idea regarding the transfer portal. Instead of making it 30 days, make it like AU basketball. Just keep it open all year round. You can transfer teams during games. Wouldn't that be great?
No, that would not be great. It's already chaotic enough. That would be crazy.
I mean, it's crazy. So I'm at the first and second round games. I know you were in Dayton, in Cleveland, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, it's Sunday. And I'm like, crap, the transfer portal opens tomorrow, and it's not even halfway through the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. It's not the ideal thing. I mean, things like that, we don't need congressional help for, right? Hopefully
this is common sense, right? It's common sense.
Hopefully us as the, we proposed this at our head coaches meeting last year at the NCAA tournament. Hopefully the Final Four this year, we can push that thing closer and say, hey, all right, this thing is open for 15 days, 20 days max, whatever it is. What it is right now I don't think that's sustainable.
Well, I think, and I don't want to talk about this. I want to talk about your career and stuff like that. But the one thing I've always said is you open it up a week after the final game. You give everybody, let's watch. Like, this is the greatest. I mean, you played in 2 Sweet 16s. Like, this is the greatest 3-week sporting event ever, anywhere. Maybe the World Cup, it can rival and stuff like that. But like collegiately, it's phenomenal. Why are we taken away from that by talking about transfer portal, coaching changes, all this stuff? Push it back a week. You can have some free time with your family, and then a week after the NCAA, the finals ends, that following Monday, then have at it for 15 to 21 days.
That would be the ideal thing. It's funny. I just saw that Auburn's going to have a Zoom meeting with a player today, and I'm like, damn, they got to prepare for the Final Four, and they got to recruit at the same time. I'm like,
yeah. I asked Coach.
Be in the Final Four, but that's not the ideal situation.
Well, I asked Coach Izzo that the question, and it was honest. I've asked others, but here nor there. So, tell me your coaching style. How much have you taken from Coach Wooten? How much have you taken from Coach Williams? How much have you taken from Coach English? How much have you taken from even Coach Scary? How much have you taken? Yeah, I know Pat Scary, baby. How much have you taken kind of throughout your career and kind of morphed it into your own?
they all have played some part, some bigger than others, some you don't see because unless you're in our practice, you may see some Gary come out. I try to be when I was a player, I would get frantic by looking at Gary sometimes. And I always said in the back of my mind that I was like, if I'm a coach, I recognize the power that I have, to give energy or angst to your players. And I was like, I got to be more, I'm more of a relaxed person by nature. And I think that's where you see more Morgan is my sideline demeanor. But Gary definitely in practice, Coach English from the connection of your players and your staff and being conscious of, grabbing a guy for lunch, bring him into the office. Like he was awesome with that. I was great to be around him with that. His interaction with, via social media and having a presence, but not overdoing it. I learned quite a bit of that from him. Coach Paulson, a lot of fundamental basic things in practice, baseline out of bounds, proper screening angles, things like that. I mean, I could go on and on, man, about from all the guys. Wes Miller, the detail in film, there's so many things that I grabbed from all of those guys.
Yeah. How easy was it for you to transition into coaching after playing? I find that like point guards, and I was not a point guard by any means, but I find like point guards you see as successful head coaches. Why do you think that is?
I think if you're a point guard and you were coached properly, you were held responsible for the other four guys on the court. And what I mean by that is if I were to call the two play and, Joe Smith was in the wrong spot, well, Gary was cussing me out because I ran the play before getting Joe in the proper place and telling him where to go. So I've always, and Coach Wooten was no different. I was raised and I've had I'm really blessed, man. I've had 2 Hall of Fame coaches, right?
Yeah.
And some of my boys club coaches, AAU coaches were really good as well. But they always placed the responsibility on me to organize everything. And that's always been my thought process when I'm on the court, whether I'm playing, whether I'm, I was doing some sports broadcasting at the time. I was always looking at, the next, where that path should be going, not where it is going, but what's the next thing. So I think with that in mind, and I've always been that way by nature, man. When I played football, I was a quarterback. When I played basketball, obviously I was a point guard. No matter how I was pretty tall when I was, I thought I was gonna be Magic Johnson when I was younger. I was a point guard, but it's just kind of been in my nature, man. I feel like I gotta have my hands on it in order for us to have success, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of guys want to be head coaches, but I wanted to be a head coach because I felt that I could have more of an impact on the win or loss of a game.
Yeah. No offense, Coach. I don't think Joe Smith was ever in the wrong position. And if he was, he sure didn't look like it.
And even if he was, again, he was in the wrong place. Gary still didn't yell at him. He yelled at me,
Yeah.
So that's the way it worked.
Yeah, it seems the point guards. I mean, you look like, Coach Krzyzewski and like, Bobby Hurley. I mean, Bobby Hurley is an intense guy. I mean, the whole Hurley family is obviously. But it seemed like Coach K would just yell. He'd never yell at Grant Hill or Christian Laettner, but Bobby Hurley always got it.
Hey, look, Coach K, man, people fail to realize because they never had the camera on him a whole lot when he was doing it. You think Gary was intense and could cuss people out? Man, Coach K was vicious. Don't let anybody fool you now.
Yeah. And you were in that era with like Dean Smith. And I mean, that was like the golden. I mean, you look at it now. I can't remember who the oldest head coach is. I believe it's Brad Burnell at Clemson. I mean, back then you had, you had coaches. I mean, Coach Odom at Wake Forest. I mean, that was Leonard Hamilton. I mean, that was a great time, man.
No, they had some during that time. I consider that the golden age of ACC basketball. I'm pretty sure that you're going to have some people that said, when Len Bias and Michael Jordan, those guys were there, and you go back a little bit further, and James Worthy and Kenny Smith. But the ACC, obviously, ACC holds something written near and dear to my heart. It ain't the same.
No, no. So we do this little section called the shot clock. It's just 5 or 6 questions, really easy. Some are thought-provoking, some are one-word answers. If you need to tell a story, tell a story. But I think it really kind of will make you look at your life and question why the hell you're doing this show. But here nor there. So
I'm on the couch right now. Essentially, this is
sure, yeah. As Coach Sellers said, this is Coaches on the Couch. It's kind of my psychology or a psychiatry podcast or show. All right, one word to describe American University.
Man, that's tough. One word. Warm.
Dude, you're in DC. It ain't warm in DC.
No, just from the standpoint, it's funny. Like where we're structured, like I've never had a place like this where I work where like all the coaches are literally like down the hall from each other, and we see each other so much. When I was at Mason, it was completely different. Like we had the basketball offices, and I saw the women's staff, but I never saw the track and field staff. I never saw the football staff.
I know what you're saying. Yep.
There's some value to that, but I think between that and the administration, I mean, it's a warm place.
Yeah, I coached the men's tennis team at DePaul decades ago, and we knew all the coaches. Like, you knew them all. Like, well, you knew all of them well. Coach Lato was there. You probably know Coach Lato, and some others and stuff like that. Biggest misconception of Patriot League basketball?
That we're not talented, to some degree. Not talented, not athletic, and not true at all on both fronts. And the other, I don't think there's a misperception, but I've always felt the tougher teams to coach against from a like schematic standpoint and like, hey, this team's going to run good actions and everything. Patriot League, when I was in USC Greensboro, Mike Young, who was at Wofford at the time, was at Virginia Tech now. Bob Hoffman, who was at Mercer. Like when you get to that level and you don't have the quote unquote 5 stars and the athletes and everything. Yeah. You got some coaches, man, the coaches who are having success, the Matt Langles and everything.
Yep.
They got some stuff to them. Yeah.
And you have to, right? I mean, if you can coach in that league or even the Ivy League, you can coach. I mean, it's plain and simple.
We don't have the luxury of saying, hey, just go run up and down. We're going to throw some lobs to you and everything. That's just not what it is, which is great. Which
no, I love. No, not like ACC basketball, right? All right, best coaching advice you were ever given?
Probably more Coach Wooten, and Coach Wooten would drop a ton of nuggets on you, but some of the ones that stand out the most, be true to yourself. What works for other people, if that's not you, don't do that. And that's kind of what I held on to, quite honestly. I'm not a self-promoter. That's not me by nature. I know that's part of the business and everything, but I let my results speak for themselves. I'm not going to run around and tell you who I recruited and what have you. You kind of just let your work speak for itself, and just being true to yourself. I think that's boded pretty well for me, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Funniest recruiting story?
Man, shucks. I just told this one to somebody not too long ago. We had a kid on campus. This is when I was at George Mason. And the kid was from New Zealand. I shouldn't say. He's a big kid. He wasn't from this country, but he was and his mom and dad with him. And like he's a big kid though. Like you could tell like he just from being around was like, this kid's a little different. And I knew something was up the first night. We had a team, we hosted him for dinner, and we're at the restaurant, and he is literally on like 8 or 10 chocolate milks. And he's just like, he's chugging them like it's beer. And I was like, that's a little odd. And we go around campus, show him around campus the next day, and we were by some building, and we're kind of looking around like, where did he go? The kid is literally up in a tree. He had climbed a tree, and he was up just hanging on a branch in a tree. He was there for 1 year. He was done after that. So it just goes to show you that probably wasn't the best recruit for us. But yeah, it was just how you're looking at me. That's exactly how I felt. Be right. This can't be right. I got a few of them, but that's one I just told recently. I was like, I should have. If I was a head coach at that point in time, I'd have been like, no, this ain't happening.
What gave it away? Being up in a tree, being a very large guy up in a tree, or drinking 19 chocolate milks a day?
This kid was legitimately 6'7" and some change, 240, but like chiseled. Great athlete. I mean, great athlete. But the chocolate milks I can kind of get away with. The climbing of the tree in broad daylight when class is going on, that's a telltale sign. It's probably need to go somewhere else.
Where there's more trees. Give me, when you were in college, give me your starting 5 ACC team, and none of your teammates can be on that team. You can be on it, though.
Man, during that time, I couldn't even put myself on it. That's how good it was. I mean,
all right, then don't put yourself on it. We asked Chauncey Billups that last year at the Final Four, and he was like on the 2nd or 3rd team, I think he said.
Yeah, that's about me, but around that time. I mean, Randolph Childress. Randolph Childress for sure. I mean, Stephon Marbury. Man, Grant Hill. Tim Duncan.
That's a team right there.
Jerry Stackhouse, Rasheed Wallace. I mean, Jeff McGinnis was good at Carolina. Terrell McIntyre.
Oh, from Clemson.
Man, was a handful. Travis Best was really, really good. Terrell McIntyre was even better, in my opinion. Like he gave me problems. I mean, every night, man, from the point guard position when I was in the ACC, like I was facing an NBA player. Like that.
You literally were, coach.
No. I tell people all the time, I was like, man, I wish I played in the ACC now, where like I'm going up against guys that transferred from, no disrespect, Campbell, from, that wasn't happening back then. You weren't transferring from Loyola or Campbell or wherever and stepping in and having an impact in the ACC at that time. Like, no, that wasn't happening.
Yeah. It was almost like a McDonald's All-American game every game. I mean, just multiple years. I mean, that's how good.
There was no night off. No matter if you're playing a team that was at the bottom or at the top. Man, Sam Cassell, Rodney Dobart, Bob Sura. Like,
Bob Sura. He was a ball player. Yeah, that was and I mean, even like Charlie Ward, who I mean wasn't McDonald's, but he was a Heisman Trophy winner.
Golly, you can go down the list, man. But yeah,
so you probably love the non-conference schedule that Coach Williams put together for you.
That's where you can build your stats up a little bit, and they kind of evened out during the ACC.
Yeah, that's funny. So last question, Coach, for the shot clock. All right, they're doing a Hollywood movie about you. Okay, I want to know what's the title of the movie, who plays you, and what's the theme song or the song that best describes you.
My wife's gonna get a kick out of this one. Who plays me? Denzel.
Okay.
Quick story. So I'm playing in Milan, Italy. What is one of my last years I'm playing in Europe. And I keep telling her, I'm like, yo, I get stopped all the time. And people, in their broken English, they're like, Denzel. So I would joke with her and say, hey, we weren't married at the time. We were going to get married in November. She was going to come over. And I was like, trust me, when you come over here, you're going to see what I'm talking about. So we get married. She comes over and we have a long weekend. So we fly down to Rome and we're spending 3 or 4 days down in Rome. And we hop in the cab. We're going to the Coliseum. And the guys are looking in the rearview mirror. He's just staring. I just keep hitting my wife. I'm like, look at him. And she looks. And I say, hey, man, we good? He says, Denzel. And my wife just falls out. She's like, okay, all right. So Denzel, theme music, it would either be John Coltrane,
or
Miles Davis.
Oh, you're a smooth one. All right.
Or it'll be Jay-Z. Something like, American Gangster or The Blueprint, something like that. Yeah. The title, something like Back to the Wall.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Okay. I like that.
Man, those are great questions.
I know. We hit hard here at the Full Court Press. So what can we expect from you this off season, this upcoming year, and stuff like that? Just what's the expectation for the off season? Well, there is no off season. I was joking with Coach Tim Miles at the Mountain West Conference tournament. His vacation was from the walk from the locker room to the press conference and back.
That's good. That's a good one. We're going to have our guys on campus, incoming freshmen, and our returners for 6 weeks. A lot of places have 8. We got 6 weeks. We'll have them here on campus. We got a big group. We got 6 freshmen coming in.
Wow.
I will say this. I mean, it's a little terrifying that you got 6 babies that are coming in that you got to get up to speed pretty quickly. But we're taller, we're longer, and we're going to be more athletic. And I think overall we're going to be more talented than what we were last year. We're not going to have Rogers, but they'll be babies. And, the idea is that once they come through the door, I mean, I want them to get hit like right away with like almost shock, because we're going to, these guys, they're going to play. I mean, they're that talented. They're going to play. So we got to get them as up to speed as possible during that 6-week period. And it's not going to come all at one time, but I want to have them with the mentality that when they do come back in the fall, like, I got to be ready. I wasn't ready in the summertime. So we got to try to get them up to speed as much as possible. The ideal goal, and I told my staff this, I said, hey, going to the tournament, I've always said that the tournament was kind of a foregone conclusion. We're going to do that. The goal now, like, we got to win games in the tournament. Yeah. And in order to do that, I think we got to position ourselves better. Like the Patriot League's going to get one bid. Yep. As if we win it, can we get a 14 seed? That's going to require for us to, we got some non-conference games that, against Power 4, Power 5 teams, and like, we got to get 1 or 2 of those, and then we got to perform really, really well within our conference. It's not enough just to win it. I want to. Yeah. Matt Langle, what he's done at Colgate, man, he's kind of laid the blueprint for what I want to do. Like, he dominated this league for 5 or 6 straight years. Like, not 15-3. I'm talking like 17-1, like 16-2 type seasons. So that's what you have to do for us in order to get to that 14. 16. Getting in the tournament. Don't get me wrong. Awesome.
Yeah.
But I think,
and not to cut you off, I'm hearing that a lot from coaches and even college commissioners, like other commissioners. It's like trying to get as low as you can as a seed, or I guess as high as you can as a seed. Like, try to get a 12, try to get a 13, try to get an 11. And I think all of it comes down to scheduling, and that's obviously a very difficult task right now for a lot of mid-major, high-major coaches.
It is, and it's we haven't quite gotten to the point where, like, when we're like, there's some programs that historically it's hard for them to find games against Power 5 schools. We haven't got to that, and we had some programs to say, hey, man, you guys are gonna be pretty good. This was coming into this past year, and they knew we had a lot coming back. Yep. And now it's like, we still got a couple games we got to get. And it's like, oh, you guys are gonna be pretty good. I'm like, no, we got 6 freshmen. Like, no, we're not going to be that good, not that early. The idea is that we get better later on, but so we're going to be able to, we got to be able to get those games, and we will get them on the schedule, and we got to win 1 or 2 of them. This is what it is.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, that's the truth, right? I mean, you have to win games, and or you got to keep them close. But I really appreciate it, Coach. You're just going to stick on for one more second while we upload, but check out Coach Simpkins. I didn't ask you if you're related to Dickie Simpkins, but
no, everybody thinks we are, but he's 60.
We kind of look you kind of look alike, man. Like, you and Denzel and you and Dickie kind of look alike.
I'm gonna call Dickie when I get off of this, and I'm gonna tell her what you said.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. But no, Coach, I really appreciate it. Watch this guy as he continues to grow and morph into greatness. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to Full Court Press, a college basketball coaches show powered by the Full Court Network. We'll be back next week after Escapades, and we'll probably see him at the Final Four. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review.